Thank you for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Brian and Scott. Today's topic, shredding on the guitar is playing with feeling. We'll get into it after this. What?
Podcast hell.
Podcast hell, yes. Deep in the bowels of the scrotum of Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I guess the first...
His scrotum is in his bowels.
It's in his bowels.
It's a dirty podcast.
It is true.
Today.
It's very dirty. You know, it's funny. Adam Carolla was like the first big podcaster, right? Am I right about that?
I don't know.
Wasn't he like the first guy that did like a big podcast?
I just remember him from Loveline.
He was also, wasn't it like the Man Show was Joe Rogan? I was like, wasn't the Man Show?
No, the Man Show was Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, is that right? It was those guys. Okay,
yes.
I was right. Yeah. So I just remember Adam Carolla being like the first like big everyone talked about podcast guy. You know, at least that if my memory is correct. I can't remember, but I don't know. Am I right about that?
I don't know. When word about podcasts went around, I thought they were like these things that you found in the cap of like pineapple, orange, guava juice, but then those are pogs. So yes, I got it all like mixed, and then I thought it was another one of those stupid cute aliens in Star Wars, but those are porgs. I just can't keep up.
You can't go one day without your Star Wars hate.
You know, the people seem to enjoy my anti-Star Wars screeds.
Fair enough.
So,
you know, it's funny. I actually, for a very long time, I didn't really understand what podcasts were either. For almost an unreasonable amount of time.
Right, you did me both.
And I was like, what is this? It's like, so you download it? Like, why would I download it?
Yeah.
It's like radio, but you download it? Like, why not
it's
just...
not radio?
I don't understand.
What?
This probably sounds so old to anybody like under 20. Like, what are these old men talking about? I don't understand. But it's a weird idea. I'm just going to subscribe to them talking.
You know, it's too bad that Neil Peart isn't with us anymore because Rush...
For many reasons, actually.
For many reasons, right? But one of them is that Rush will never get to write and record the spirit of podcast.
That's true. Well, maybe I'll go back at some point. Like Geddy Lee, when he's like 85 or 90, he'll come back and do the spirit of podcast.
Maybe. Oh my goodness!
Begin the day with an angry voice.
Yeah. Yes, backmasked and octaved.
Yeah, it's funny. It's podcasting. You know, it did start off as like I'm sure it was like just a fun offshoot of like a radio type thing, but it's gotten so specialized. In fact, so specialized that you guys, welcome to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. We're here to talk about all things rock guitar today. Ryan, let's go ahead and aim towards our topic of today. What is our topic?
So our topic, shredding. Shredding is playing with feeling.
Yep, shred guitar is playing with feeling.
Just in case someone told you otherwise.
Yeah. I think what's funny is we should probably unpack what people typically mean when they say playing with feeling. And I think for most people, it's blues. You're listening to like, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Buddy Guy or something like that, and they say, man, that guy plays with feeling. And this is something that I've always kind of thought was like, well, I mean, that's true. If I listen to like a great,
right.
If I listen to, I don't know, just think about any of the great blues, John Coltrane from jazz. You listen to Muddy Waters. You listen to, Albert Lee in country. If you listen to all these different, every one of those guys plays with feeling in their own way. Yep. And for whatever reason, shred guitar has kind of been labeled with, oh, that's just scale jockeys. Those guys are just running up and down scales, and I'm sure there are some examples of that being true, but like I don't understand like how that isn't playing with feeling. You can't listen to Yngwie Malmsteen and tell me he's not playing with feeling.
Oh, dude, Yngwie's got the fire, and Yngwie's got blues chops.
That's true, he does. But when he plays with his full aggression mode with sweeping or fast alternate picking, he's playing with feeling. That is the feeling he's going to. I think the question should really be what feeling.
Well, and to backtrack to the folks who, there's a certain subgroup of guitar players out there that overemphasize it's all about feel.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they're saying is feel only in the absence of other things, like maybe knowing some other chords or scales.
Well, then there are examples of players who maybe aren't the most learned guitarists in the world who play with great feel.
Well, totally.
I mean, Eddie Van Halen is one of those guys. He's not a dude who's like a schooled musician where he's sitting down thinking, I'm going to play Phrygian Domino over this chord. So he's just playing. And
he didn't get plucked out of the local conservatory.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, though, you can't ever say he didn't play with feeling. My God, everything Van Halen played was with feeling. You know what I mean? But same with Clapton. I think if people are just they're like saying that feeling is this one little corner of what it means to play with feeling. Like this thing is what is playing with feeling, and everything else is not playing with feeling. Only this one thing. You know what I mean?
think there's a certain subgroup of guitar players out there that knows they didn't practice enough. And so
that's a very, very, very blunt way of saying it. I agree with that. Yeah.
and so then they cover up for that by becoming the guy that says it's just all about the feel.
Hear that bend I just did?
I mean, of course, it's all about playing with feel, right?
Yeah, but you know, if you are limited because you didn't develop your chops or understanding, then you're going to be limited in your ability to express yourself too. You're gonna have a dial that doesn't go from 1 to 10; it goes from like 1 to 4. And then anything above 4, you can't do anything. You're kind of lost. That's why those guys tend to stick with like slow blues shuffles.
It'll get stuck at 4, and it'll never like really be happy to see you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the dirty podcast.
Damn it,
folks.
True. Yes, so they say it never gets the full mast. Let's put it that way.
No, it's always flying in half mast. Yes, so this is the dirty humor podcast. That's actually the subtopic today, folks. So you've been warned.
But when I listen to someone like, let's just use an example like Steve Vai. Now, Steve Vai is a guy who you can't tell me he doesn't play with feeling. He absolutely plays with. Joe Satriani is another guy that plays with tons of feel. For sure. But he's also got chops, and so his feeling is a very wide range. He can do everything from like slow, dramatic, soft, melodic crying playing to very high energy playing as well, and you can really do everything in between. And I think that's what we should really be looking at and venerating. And in my experience, most of the shred guitar players, at least the ones that I think are great, like they aren't the guy just running up and down a scale. They can, those guys they have technique and chops and can do all kinds of things, but it's very much got a vibe. George Lynch plays with tons of feeling. You know what I mean?
He's not the most schooled
player.
Right.
Warren DeMartini plays with tons of feeling. I mean, Jakey Lee always played. Randy Rhoads played with tons of feeling. I mean,
Kristen Pelletieri plays with tons of feeling.
Jason Becker plays with tons of feeling, or played with tons of
totally. Well, he currently composes with tons of feeling.
You know what I mean? But that the idea that isn't playing with feeling is not. Jeff Loomis plays with tons of feeling.
Yeah.
You know
so
I mean?
I think the thing about guys like that is that, I mean, if you're limited. This is going to come out wrong. Like if you're,
I know what you mean, though. I know
if you're a limited blues guy. Okay,
that sounds bad to say that.
Okay, okay. Here we go. I'm finding a space where I can be a little more comfortable with the criticism. If you're the guitar player in Pearl Jam,
sure,
right? Like
who claims to be a huge Michael Schenker fan. Which is is crazy. If you're a huge Michael Schenker, why are you so terrible? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, the solo from what is it? Yellow Ledbetter, Yellow Cake Uranium. I don't know, whatever that song.
Cake.
Right, it's one of the songs where Eddie Vedder goes the whole time.
Got to narrow it down a bit more, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. So you know what? Dude's tone. It's Stone Gossard, I think, and his tone
McCready's
is really
the other
good.
guy, right? McCready's the other guy in the band.
Is that the other
McCready?
guy? I don't know. I try to not remember
much
much
funny,
about Pearl Jam.
I remember when Pearl Jam came out, hating them and thinking they all totally sucked. And then looking back now that we have Machine Gun Kelly and Post Malone, I actually look back with Pearl Jam with some nostalgic. Oh, those guys could actually play pretty well considering.
Yeah. So so the guitar tone's really good for what it is, and it's expressing that one thing.
Blues playing, it's
right.
Good.
But
I don't hear any Schenker in his playing at all.
Dude, the solo at the end of Alive is terrible.
I don't get it. I mean,
it's a bad guitar solo.
It's like one of those Korn, is a big Steve Vai fan thing. I don't get that. It's like, okay, so why are you terrible then? I don't.
They're only a fan of his adding that one string.
I guess, but the guys from Pearl Jam claim to be Schenker fans and grew up listening to the Scorpions. It's like, well, then why are you so terrible? I don't get it. It's like,
why didn't you spend more time?
You should play like something like Uli or Michael. I mean, that's what you should be doing. It's like. And those guys, see, the thing is, the difference is Michael plays a feeling.
Well, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Yeah. So I think, those guys, they can play with feel, but they
don't have the chops or the understanding to do anything beyond this little box.
Well, they express like maybe one or two feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the guitarist with more musical understanding and technical ability can express a wider variety of feelings.
That's what I was saying about Satriani and Vai. It's like those guys can express any feeling. John Petrucci can express any feeling. Steve Morris can express any feeling. Yep. You know what I mean? You're not limited to this little box, this little corner right here. And that's not to take anything away from the blues bend guy or the
not at all,
like the Andy Summers type player who's not like a chops guy, or even the Edge who he's playing with the real feel that what he's trying to do. He's just extremely limited in what he's able to do.
And you know what? It doesn't even need to be technique and musical understanding within a rock context. Like and to be totally fair, I do not remember the guy's name, but the lead guitarist for Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh, I don't remember his name. I think it was a bunch of different guys. I don't think it was like any one guy on the records, at least. I'm sure it was.
Well, so whoever in the live videos I've seen from the heyday, like circa,
great band, by the way. I love
86.
Huey Lewis and the News. Great band.
Love them. Man, dude, for the longest time I had this idea of putting together a tribute band where you'd have to have horns in it.
Yeah.
So you would do like 1.5 sets. All Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah, and then the other part of Oingo Boingo, right?
Yeah, I probably mentioned that before.
Yeah,
Man, that would just slay if the band
Oingo
was
Boingo
tight.
is a better band than people give them credit for, too.
Oh, goodness, yes.
That's a real band, by the way. Anybody who's like rolling their eyes at me right now, no, it's a real band. There was a band called Oingo Boingo. Huey Lewis and the News was not a Weather Report person, or wasn't actually Weather Report's another band. It was not a local news team.
It was not a podcast.
Yeah, it was actually a band. I don't care who you are. You've heard their music. You definitely have, for sure. There's no two ways. Great stuff, too. Every time I hear one of those Huey Lewis songs on the radio, I'm like, that is killer, man. It's really good.
And, dude, for popular stuff, like Power of Love, like that song hits hard.
Heart and Soul is a killer.
Yeah, so good. I need a new drug.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many good ones, dude. There's
so many good ones, man.
Yeah.
Totally. I remember getting 4 on cassette tape when I was a kid.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, just wore that out.
Yeah,
man.
it's great. Dire Straits was like that too. I remember on the was it Brothers in Arms? Was it? No, what the hell was that? The big Dire Straits record, the one that had Money for Nothing on. I got that. One of my very first records I ever got when I was a little kid was actually the Dire Straits Brothers in Arms, I think is what it's called, maybe, or I want to say, or
I think so.
Yeah, but that was like one of the first that one and Synchronicity by the Police were my first 2 records I ever got.
Nice.
And I remember listening to those all the time, and I thought Dire Straits was awesome, and just killer vibe, killer everything about that band. Mark Knopfler's the guy that plays with feel. See, he's the guy, it's almost exactly the poster child for what we're talking about. He's the guy that plays with tons of feel. But his chops are really limited, so like he kind of goes to a certain place, and then he can't like go beyond that place. He's got that one place.
He has a very distinct voice on the instrument.
Yep, Santana's like that, I would say.
Yeah, man, Carlos.
But he's got that voice. He has the one thing, and I think Knopfler's kind of like that too. Does the one thing.
Yeah, but Knopfler is way more tasteful, I think, in his melodic choices.
I prefer Knopfler better than Santana too. But.
Yeah, Carlos is guilty of playing the neener lick.
Yeah, it's true. He's a freaking huge offender of that. Are you kidding me?
He's like the OG. He's like the neener OG.
Tremolo pick on one string and move up your fingers randomly too.
Neener, bend.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, this one exception to that is Billy Gibbons. Billy Gibbons is a guy who doesn't have like all the chops in the world. He really doesn't. If you watch what he plays, he's never playing anything that's terribly complicated at all. But dude, I could listen to him solo all day.
Dude, great dynamics, man.
He's just so good about like where he does it bend and how he rhythmically plays against the beat, and like it's just so cool. I actually just recently watched something on like Access TV. It's like a live in Texas ZZ Top thing, and I was watching him play, and his tone is just so juicy, and it's like not the kind of tone I would ever want, but for him, it's freaking great.
Oh,
it's
absolutely,
so cool.
Man! Great dynamics from Billy Gibbons, right?
But he's another guy. He's the only guy I can think of that doesn't like feel like he's super limited, even though he's super limited. Like he finds a way to really get that dynamic happening that feels like he's going for it, like going over the top.
So this is
but
a thing
he never really goes over the top. You know what I mean?
So this is, I think we're circling around a concept or an idea that we've talked about on this podcast before, which is Gibbons. What you hear from him in ZZ Top, I feel like that's just the tip of a Billy Gibbons iceberg.
Yeah.
Right, I feel like there's a lot under the water that maybe we don't ever get to hear.
Well, I don't think he's like some chops monster hidden away. He's not like doing 4-octave sweep arpeggios when we're not paying attention. I don't think that's happening.
I mean, probably not.
He busts out the Ibanez RG and starts plugging into like a freaking Saldana or something. And
dude, that'd be rad if he did.
It'd be awesome. I was losing my mind if I saw him doing sweep arpeggios and tapping. But there's an argument that Billy Gibbons is the first person to ever tap, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? And pinch harmonics.
Yeah, pinch harmonics for days. I mean,
yeah.
But in a really tasteful, cool way. I mean, everything he does is so cool. It's like ridiculous. You
right.
know, it's stupid how cool that guy is as a player. You know?
So if I were hanging out with Billy Gibbons, and I'll bet his country chops are bar none.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like a rock shredder dude. Like he doesn't have those chops. If I said, hey man, I want you to do a 16th note triplet run in 3 octaves, using alternate picking, that I don't think he's that guy. But if you had a country thing or a blues thing or a rockabilly thing or like a more of what's the word, like roots music, he would be all over that. You know what I mean? It's great. You know, another guy I love too. We're going somewhere. I'm not going to try and side.
Oh no! Well, I was just going to say if I were hanging out in the studio with like Billy Gibbons, well, first of all, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, you'd also be probably like, I'm Billy. There's in your beard right there. There's
yeah.
I think some of your Chipotle is right there. Yeah.
Right.
What? Right here. Right. No, no, on the right. No, closer to your other part. No, right.
Knock the bird's nest loose.
Exactly.
And,
okay.
Yes. Right.
And I think it's next to the other Chipotle from yesterday. It's still there. Go on now. No, go on, Billy Gibbons.
It's just got like a beard that a fan threw.
I
on
love the
stage.
idea
it's
of
just
Billy
like
Gibbons
nested in the beard.
I love walking into a Chipotle and there's Billy Gibbons picking up his burrito.
Right.
He's so awesome, dude.
Or he parts his beard and there's Aslan, the land of Narnia.
He has a second mouth under his other beard. You know, it's like,
that would be great. See, now we're getting back into horror movie territory. I'm there.
I could see him more as like a mythological creature, something like a satyr.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Sadly, he's more beard than man now.
Yes,
Petrucci's close to that now
he's
too.
Half Billy, half horse.
Half horse beard.
Just like a little bow and arrow, just like emerges from the beard.
Exactly. Hello, everyone. Were you in there the whole time? Oh my God, that's right.
So I would expect that if I were hanging out with the ancient Norse god Billy Gibbons.
Yes, exactly.
Right, or maybe ancient Native American god. I don't know. Some combination.
He's a Texas god.
Different mythology.
He's one of them Texan gods. Yeah. The Chuck Norris.
I like the beard dangle. That was good. So I wouldn't be shocked if he just popped off with something that like I couldn't believe. Like, whoa. Yeah.
Jimmy Page is like that. Jimmy Page, I kind of have an idea what Jimmy Page does, and he'll play something like, holy shit, I didn't know you could play that.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I thought you were this guy. You know who's else, the other guitarist besides Bill Gibbons, and I think Bill Gibbons is awesome. I got nothing bad to say about him. He's great player. You know who else thought Bill Gibbons was awesome?
Jimi Hendrix.
Exactly. Yeah. But another guy I love, that he's a brilliant guitar player who's not a chops guy at all, is Mike Campbell from Tom Petty's band.
Oh, yeah.
That guy is a great player.
Dude,
he's so good.
Mike Campbell really inspired me to work on my hybrid picking chops.
Well, Mike Campbell to me is the king of tasteful melodic construction. Like he comes up with these melodies that are just unbelievable. Like the intro to Breakdown.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. It's so simple and genius at the same time. It's like it's almost like something they discovered in the middle of the Amazon forest. It was like perfectly formed from the beginning of time. Yeah, it's like everything he plays like reminds you of that. It's like, oh my God, it's like this perfectly formed thing of perfection. You know what I mean? It's like just found by like Indiana Jones like in 1930 or something.
Scientists were in the Amazon rainforest trying to discover new antibiotics, and they discovered Mike Campbell instead.
Yeah, Mike Campbell's the guitar parts. Like,
yes.
Oh my God, these are just perfect.
Wow.
They just fit this thing amazing. But what's funny is when I hear him solo, even if it's an extended solo, and Billy Gibbons is like this too, it feels like to me like it never gets old. Like he's not repeating himself, even though I know he's repeating himself. But it's like it feels like he could go on all day.
God, isn't that the trick?
Playing great stuff, but like he's not ever like ripping ever. It's almost like he's always like in second gear. He's never past second gear. Like there's no third, fourth, fifth gear for him. It's just he's got second gear.
But you're happy to be along for the slow
ride.
But
he's somehow staying in that race at second gear. It's the weirdest thing, and there's something to be said for that. But that being said, if I said, hey, Mike, that's cool. I want you to play over this double kick metal thing, and I want you to shred over this part, he would be lost. He couldn't have anything to add. So you're going to still be limited. There's boxes around what you're able to do. And to me, I feel like you should not like aim for that. You should aim for having no limitations and then play what you want to play.
At least aim for it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got some limitations.
Well, so this gets down to the so recently I bought a bunch of copies on John Petrucci's recommendation in a Guitar Player magazine article.
Petrucci's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, so
beard notwithstanding.
So on his recommendation, I got some copies of Chord Chemistry by Ted Green.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, it is great, man. And actually, it's inspired some metal stuff I've recently written, even though it's essentially a jazz method.
Yep. But that's the thing. You can't. Music isn't like bisected like that. It's not like this is jazz and this is blues and this is country. It all can be used together. There's no music theory for jazz, music theory for rock, music theory for country, music theory for blues. It's just music theory and it applies to everything. You know what I mean?
Music theory. It's how notes vibrate together.
The pentatonic scale is a common thread between all those styles we just talked about. You know what I mean? And you can use it differently in different ways, but it's the same tool. You know what I mean? It's like there's oh, this is blues pentatonic, this is diatonic, this is rock pentatonic, this is jazz pentatonic, this is R&B pentatonic. It's it's the same tool.
Right. So if in your toolbox, so let's say the pentatonic scale is a hammer.
Yep.
right? But I mean, if all you had in your
But can mine be called Mjolnir?
Yes, it could be called Mjolnir.
Beautiful.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. Skysgar Skygelf. Metalocalypse would approve. Yeah, man. So, if all you had was a hammer in your toolbox, I mean, you're only going to be able to pound nails, man.
Yep, that's true.
You're probably going to want some pliers and,
saws.
a crescent wrench.
Yeah, exactly.
A Dremel tool.
Because just like anything else, you'd be limited if all you have is a hammer.
Right.
You're limited. So that's a great analogy. Actually, it's beautiful. Hopefully people can understand that. Like, it's like, dude, that's why you don't need to know more.
There it is.
I think a lot of it, it comes down to so much to me, insecurity of players who came before. And I think it's partially excuse making for people who don't want to do the work. That's why I feel like that whole argument comes up to that. You know what I mean? To me.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it should be, speaking just for myself, I'm not a great jazz player. I'm not a jazz player at all.
Yeah, me either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I understand jazz. I studied jazz for years, but it's like, I think I might, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but like I really had like a very interesting kind of a journey with jazz because like when I was in music school, it was kind of expected that you love jazz. And then I remember, my roommates were all into jazz. Then, thank God for my friends who I was hanging out with were all a bunch of metal dudes. This is like late 90s, guys. So, like, it wasn't cool to be into like Dio and Whitesnake in like 1997. But we were all into Dio and Whitesnake and Richie Kotzen and Cacophony and stuff like that. So, I had like my buddies in school that got me through that. But I remember feeling real insecurity about like, God, I don't really understand jazz at all. I've never even thought about jazz, and I'm taking all these jazz, studies in school, and I'm learning all this jazz theory and stuff. And I remember talking to some of my instructors and some of my friends who were jazz players, and they say, well, you just got to keep playing. And at some point, it'll just sink in. It'll just lock in for you and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll keep doing that. So I got a real book and I started working on all the changes and playing through changes and learning all my advanced scales and learning to play through changes and really studying Mike Stern and John Schofield and
you
Pat
tried to
Metheny
dissolve some like minor 13 chords in with your cereal in the morning.
And I did it, and I sat there for like 3 years just sitting there playing jazz a lot. And outside of playing the metal stuff, I did that too, but I was really playing jazz a lot. I mean, I formed like a trio with a drummer and a bass player trying to do like jazz standards and going,
just throwing in like flat five substitutes.
Getting into it, man. Yeah. Well, just taking a real book and interpreting it and stuff like that. And,
totally.
And then one day it just dawned on me like, oh, here's the problem. I hate fucking jazz.
Thanks for listening to Raw Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Now back to the show.
I just don't like this music. I don't like the way it sounds. I don't like anything about it. I'd rather play the Scorpions and Iron Maiden any day, than play this. And it's kind of, I had to give myself permission to hate jazz. You know what I mean? It's because I remember feeling so much peer pressure from my instructors and all the people at school. Like, you have to be into this stuff. And I was just like, this is real music, man.
Like speaking for myself, any study that I've made in that genre, shallow as it is, it's benefited my rock and metal playing.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I spent those years studying it.
Right.
It definitely has benefited my rock playing. But I remember thinking, like, it's okay to just not like this, right? I could be I'd rather play Rat. I'd rather play Rat and Van Halen. That's cool, right? I remember like if this coming to grips with like, okay, I don't have to feel bad about not liking jazz. I should just accept that I don't like jazz. It's just not a thing. It's like a pink polo shirt that I just would never wear. Looks good on other people. You know what I mean?
It is a power color.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like that's just not for me. And eventually it kind of came to it's okay to just not be in it. I'd rather play my stuff that's metal and rock. That's where I live. That's my heart is.
So I think there's a distinction to be made, right? So I hope our listeners, dude, I'm so happy I can say our listeners.
Yes. Thank you all. Five or six of you, something like that.
Well, I mean, it's just I get to say listeners plural. So thanks to all of you out there. You're awesome, especially those who've reached out.
And the people who are listening right now, you're even the best.
Yes,
there's people who aren't listening aren't trying as hard. They're just
right. They're like the Pearl Jam of listeners right now. Just kidding. None of you are the Pearl Jam of listeners.
Yes, don't run off that. That's terrible. Like, you actually probably have people semi-suicidal even thinking about that. Like, oh my God, am I Pearl Jam? Am I Pearl Jam?
I might have just broken a law. I don't know. But so I'm not trying to represent myself as having every possible tool in my bag of tools.
But we're constantly working on developing more tools.
Thank you.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're never done. That's the thing.
After 33 years, I'm still trying to put new tools in that bag.
Dude, you're just in the middle of it. You know what I mean? And I think that that having a student's mind and understanding that you don't know everything, and then no matter how much you know, there's always way more that you don't know. And being excited by that. It's like, cool, I can keep learning forever. You know, there's never an end to this. I can keep getting better till the day I die.
Yeah, like here's this cool new voicing or melodic concept. It's like, dude, that's Christmas. I just got this new thing for a new present
toy,
that I can play with, right?
That's totally right. Yep.
Dude, that to me never, ever, ever gets old.
It's true. And I think that's what I always find so challenging when you talk to people who are like very close-minded about either learning theory or developing technique, because they say, well, that's not feeling, man. It's like, it's not going to hurt you to have more options. I always keep trying to say that there's no downside to having more options.
It's never going to hurt.
Yeah, understanding more about music is not going to limit you. It's going to grow what you can do. You know what I mean?
You'll be able to express a wider variety.
Which is why I come
feelings.
back to saying it's insecurity. I think it's a lot of it that people don't want to like come to the table and say, "Gosh, here's the things that I don't do well." They'd rather just pretend like everything's fine, and those things don't matter anyway. So it doesn't matter. I don't have to work on this. I'm la 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 la. Everything's fine. It's like, well, you don't grow by doing that.
No,
that's not how you become a better musician. So if you can't like readily spit out the things that are your weaknesses and understand that you need to be working on those things, then you're never going to grow as a player. And then I think maybe that's something that you and I maybe have a myopia because of how much it means to us to be great players. That's something maybe the only people like who are super passionate about it feel. Maybe that's what that comes down to.
Well, and to be clear, it matters to me that I'm on the path of being the player I want to be. I don't care so much what other people think personally.
And also, this comes down to there's like already been a Steve Vai. There's already an Yngwie Malmsteen. There's already an Andy LaRocque. There's always been an Eddie Van Halen. You can never be those guys. You can just be the best, you that you're going to be, which is all you really need to try and be is just try and be the best what you're able to be. You know what I mean? And that's valid. Like any other artist's creation is valid.
Right. Unless you're Kurt Cobain.
He should have just put the guitar right down as soon as he picked it up.
Just should have. It should have been barred.
That career at Home Depot should have been
a guitar.
more, something like that.
Yes. He'd still get to work with pieces of wood that had hardware attached, just not guitars.
Exactly. That would have saved everyone a lot of grief. Actually, had that happen.
Yes.
Could he round up the guys in like Pearl Jam as well and Temple of the Dog and trying to think who else? It would be really, really cool if him and the Korn guys and the Godsmack guys kind of all got together too. And, just go work at Home Depot, guys. It's going to be good.
Right. Now go away to Home Depot.
Exactly. Where's your mulch?
Right.
It's on the other side of the store.
Yeah, right.
Now go away.
Now leave me alone. Go to aisle 4.
I think of our imaginary wrestler Mike Bleed. That's how he would talk, I think.
Ooh, you know what? I'm friends now with a real life wrestler.
Really? I don't know this.
So so music and guitar is not my hobby. It's kind of my whole life and my livelihood, right? So I have to have a hobby.
Okay.
So there's
befriending wrestlers has become
so in the same way that I've recently re-embraced social media and other technological things.
Are you talking about weather controlling machines? What are we talking about?
Well, I was referring to my toaster.
Yes, my AI army I've been creating in my basement.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I can make toast now.
Any shade I want.
That's right. Yes.
Light or dark.
Right.
Yeah.
Wheat or sourdough, any variety.
I will tell you what, man. I don't care what kind of toaster you have. Do not buy the keto toast and try and make that.
It does not. Toast? That sounds lame.
The gluten-free toast is like the...
Oh, no. My toast, I found this special all gluten bread.
Yes.
It's great. It's just gluten. Yeah.
It's just gluten. That's the brand, right?
Yeah.
Just gluten.
I can't believe it's all gluten.
Exactly. It's delicious.
It is delicious.
This bread is so delicious. It's all gluten.
It's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
I
need to know about the wrestler, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I play this video game.
Okay.
Yeah, right, where you're using like 19th century weapons to murder each other. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's very life affirming.
Yeah, so I met this dude from Scotland when he shot me in the head with a bow and arrow.
No, that's how usually most meet cutes happen.
Yeah,
right?
and he introduced me to this other dude who's a professional wrestler in Kentucky. So shout out to Jeremy Rage in Kentucky. A fan of the podcast.
Oh, very cool.
So there we go. Yeah, so now I'm going to start doing shout outs to people who I know.
I hope that there's no offense when I say that sounds like a wrestler.
Yes.
That's just, my mind's eye. That's how I picture a wrestler talking.
Right. Well, hey, hopefully people in Kentucky will start listening to the podcast. So, hey.
Maybe even Illinois. Let's dare to dream.
Yes, right.
Illinois, maybe Ohio.
We'll have to start thinking about what kind of wrestler should be using one of our songs as like ring entrance
music. Walking music, yeah. Probably hitting, oh man, it would have to be like something like, oh, no, not my kind.
Walk into Not My Kind,
yeah,
or
Not My Kind.
Or the Hourglass.
There you go, yeah, the Hourglass would be a good one. For sure. Yeah, for sure. That's our ex-ageist music that is actually, guys, you should go check it out right now. Whatever you're doing, we'll keep listening to the podcast, but then go to like a computer and go to xageistband.com and you can check out some of the songs. We have lyric videos up on our video or on our website right now. So
that's right.
You
that's
can hear
www.exageisband.com.
I love that we have a spelling time with Ryan segment in every podcast now.
At least I'm not saying E-I-I-I-X.
That would actually be awesome. Oh my God, I saw the most hilarious Cookie Monster commercial. I will talk about that later. But
yeah. Isn't he singing for Cannibal Corpse now?
I think so. Yeah.
That was the easiest.
Sorry, George Corpse Granger. I'm sorry, man.
I have a great Cannibal Corpse story. So to our point about, and I've probably told this anecdote on the podcast, but one day, Jack Owen from Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah, he told me about this. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
Dude, the guys called me back from lunch because he was in the store, and I swear I thought I heard two people doing like serious like jazz duet in the electric guitar room at Skip's Music, and it was just one dude, and it was Jack Owen.
Which shows you like how much versatility that musician has. He can do everything, and I think that's what we should aim for as music. We shouldn't like make it easy to like not try to be great. You should like be aiming towards being good. Even if you never achieve the heights that you want to achieve, it's still worth it to shoot at that, to really try and make that happen. And I think trying to make yourself feel comfortable or making excuses for your limitations is only going to hurt you at the end of the day if you're a musician. And I think I was mentioning before that I think that the previous generation, the people, like if you look at the 60s guitar heroes, I think that they felt very threatened by the 80s guitar heroes, and like probably starting in the late 70s when like Blackmore and Shanker and those guys guys in Rush started coming out.
Well, and I mean, like Sabbath was. I mean, I know they were like a highly technical, like although the rhythm section in Sabbath.
I mean, and Iommi's a good guitar player. Man.
Yeah, he
very
is.
good.
Right. Well, and he had his fingertips cut off.
But even then, you would never know it. You know what I mean? I think that, but a lot of guys, the Clapton, Beck, Page, Hendrix kind of crowd really felt threatened when it became like Shanker, Blackmore, and then Van Halen, Rhodes.
Well, I don't think Beck ever felt threatened.
No, Beck was just such a unique person. Right. He was never a chops guy, and he never tried to be a chops. Even in the 80s when he quote unquote embraced shred, he really just got like a more high gain tone. But he still played like Jeff Beck. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then Clapton became like singer-songwriter guy. Jimmy Page just disappeared, didn't do anything for, he did the Coverdale Page record in 1990 and then nothing.
Right, but I always wish that were just another Whitesnake album.
It's a good record. I like it. It's cool. I mean, it's cool hearing him and Coverdale play together. That's cool. But
yeah, I'm always going to go. I'm always going to go Still of the Night over Shake My Tree.
For sure. The Whitesnake stuff's way better. I agree. Yeah. But it was still cool, and I would like to hear more. I mean, because at least Jimmy Page is being active and doing something. You know what I mean? Hendrix killed himself in '70, so who knows what he. My guess is Hendrix wouldn't have been doing Hendrixy stuff at all. He'd probably be doing unrecognizable music, for what he was doing.
Moving on to something. Yeah. Who knows where he would have gone.
And same with Randy Rhoads. I think Randy Rhoads kept living. We wouldn't be getting like 5 more Ozzy records. I don't think that would happen. So
we might be getting like maybe 5 to 10 years ago we would have got like the last like reunion tour.
Yeah, exactly. Like Randy would come back and did like one more record or something. Like that,
right before Ozzy was.
Would have been really cool. Had it still followed the same trajectory, had Jake and Zach, have Randy, Jake, and Zach all collaborate. He's write like 3 songs.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be, dude?
Then have Jake and Zach and
I don't know why they're not doing that.
And Gus G, right?
Dude, those guys
all do.
Seriously. Have each write 3 songs and then come in and have Ozzy sing on it, and that would be freaking money. And then tour. Tour that.
Yeah, and then take the hologram of Ozzy on tour. And then,
I prefer the Ozzy, let's walk you out to this spot on stage, and he's like, Am I in my house? Yes, Ozzy, your house.
Okay. Dude, okay, so here's how it is. So they bring Ozzy out on stage, and then like a dark satanic priest performs an exorcism on Ozzy, and then the hologram appears out of Ozzy, and it's young Ozzy.
Oh, wow.
And then that young hologram Ozzy does the show.
I don't know how this happened, but Sharon Osbourne has already got a cease and desist letter towards this podcast.
Right,
for,
yeah, there's already
for copyright infringement.
There's already a bunch of black Escalades encircling the studio. Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome, dude. I would be freaking all about
Wouldn't that be great?
You know, that is like the equivalent of what Van Halen was trying to do at the end. Like, okay, we're going to do a kitchen sink tour with Gary Schroen, Sammy, and Dave, and Mike, and Wolfgang. We're going to tour. Everybody would do every era. We're going to tour stadiums. Like, that would have been awesome. Are you kidding me? I would have loved that. Dude, Ozzy, if he can ever get, like, even let's say a 20-date tour happening at some point, who knows if he can. But that would be that's the move. You get Jake and Zach and Gus and Joe, and each one writes 3 songs, and you just make a killer metal record. You don't have Andrew Watt come in and write some blues rock stuff.
No,
you know what I mean?
Oh, you're right. I know.
Yeah,
I never even listened to that album.
Yeah,
I had no desire to.
All I know is the Rolling Stone guys really liked it, so that must mean it was terrible. So that's
sadly.
Sadly. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make though about that is that like those guys were like the legit OG people. They should. That's dude. I would pay whatever if that was the tour. I'll pay $500 a person. Hell
dude,
yeah.
Who would be a good person to? I mean, I know like Zach is the go-to guy for Ozzy, but if they did the if they did the Diary of a Madman tour again,
oh, Happy Joe.
Like, you think Joe Holmes?
Happy Joe, yeah,
because he was Randy's,
Happy
student,
Joe doing
right?
that for sure. And
who else would be good in that slot? I think Adrian Vandenberg would be good.
I don't think his style is so different than Randy's. You know what I mean?
Maybe Joe Stump.
Joe Stump could do, but he'd have to basically put on the Randy mask and just leave his style to the side. I think John 5 could do it. There's a bunch of dudes
totally.
I think they even I think even Gus could do it really if you wanted to. I mean,
Gus is great.
Yeah,
man.
he is. Anyway, we're kind of getting far afield from the
yes. So
playing with feeling thing, but that's what I was saying before. Like all of my favorite guitar players are all guys who could do. I mean, especially like a guy like Steve Vai, he could do anything. Steve Morse can do anything. That should be the standard. The standard shouldn't just be, I'm going to stop at this point and that's good enough. And I think that's what I was going with before. That like those 60s guitar heroes, I think felt very threatened by the 80s guitar heroes because it's kind of like the way like. I don't know, like an 87 like Honda Civic would feel threatened by a Tesla. You know what I mean? It's like it's going to be obsolete now. It's like, well, it's not obsolete. It's just it's a different thing. But the idea of then denigrating those players and saying that is bullshit and that's terrible, that's not real playing, that's not playing with feeling, I feel like it's a very defensive thing. Now, that being said, I got to own some of my stuff that could be seen as me being hypocritical here. So I'm going to go right at you. That's right. I see you out there. You're a hypocrite, Scott. Because of what I said about Polyphia, he doesn't play with soul, right? He doesn't play with soul. He doesn't write songs. There's no melody, that kind of thing.
There's a feeling. I just don't like the feeling.
Yeah, it's not for me. I will never say Tim Henson is not a great player. He's a fantastic guitar player.
Totally great player.
He's fantastic. He's got no limitations in his abilities at all.
Nope.
Well, other than I've never heard him bend. But he's got no limitations in that, and so I look at that. But yeah, that's just really more of a creative difference. It's just I don't dig what he plays. There's shredders who I don't dig what they play either, and that's not because I don't think they're great players. I just don't dig what they do.
Something I like better than others.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's really a difference in creative. What your creativity is, and this just doesn't hit me the way that I think he would want it to be. I don't think that's him not playing with feeling. He plays with whatever's in his head. I totally agree with this. That he plays what the notes he hears in his head are. So that he's playing what he hears in his head, and it just doesn't suit what I want to hear.
Right.
And that's the difference. So it's not he sucks and I think he's crap or something like that, or I think he's great, but that's the music he makes doesn't appeal to me. You know what I mean?
Dude, totally.
But that's different than saying that's not real playing, which is what the '60s guys said to the '80s shredders. Like, oh, that's not real playing.
And that's what the '90s guys said to the '80s shredders.
For a lot of the same reasons.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a weird it's a weird sandwich where like the bun just really sucks.
Yeah, but the middle part's awesome.
The middle part's awesome.
It's the double down from KFC or something.
Right. It's like it's like all the filling in the sandwich cookie is delicious, but the cookie is shit.
Yeah, literally.
It's like a shit cookie.
Yeah. Although the '90s one's way shittier than the '60s ones, because even the '60s still had a killer plane.
And some cool imaginative stuff. So I generally like when it comes to rock and metal players, I like rock and metal players generally. There's some. I'll give you 2 examples, right? So generally, I like guitar players that are like you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, and there's like so much more that's there, right? Mm-hmm. So Andy LaRocque, for example, right? I know that what I hear in King Diamond is the tip of the LaRocque iceberg.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I know he has classical chops. Some of that's in the King Diamond stuff.
You can just get like a little illusion that like, oh, I can, okay, I bet there's more there.
Yeah, like I'll bet there's more there.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Hank Sherman from Merciful Fate, like, and he said as much in interviews, like he's not interested in learning or playing other stuff. He just plays the Merciful Fate stuff like that, or that kind of rock metal.
Yeah,
right?
he's great at what he does, though. You know,
yeah, I mean, you know, the band originally split up because you want to do some more poppy stuff. So I mean, that's still adjacent, but I mean, yeah. So just different kinds of players, right? So I love both of those guys. Andy's my favorite, though.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's everyone's playing is going to hit you a certain way, and I think that's like the classic debate is the Eddie versus Randy debate. Like, it's not, there's no right answer. It really comes down to what hits you and what is something you attach to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think a player like myself, I attach to both. I think they're both fantastic. I love their playing immensely, both of them. Eddie was the guy who's my guy, but that doesn't mean I don't love Randy. And I kind of see it that way too. And my favorite guitar players are similar to yours in the sense that they're all. None of my very favorite guys don't have tons of chops. They're all very chops heavy. They're loaded with chops. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
But chops ahoy!
Chops ahoy!
But they also all have a unique style and feel too. I mean, if I go through like, you know, obviously Eddie and Randy, obviously those guys have well talked about feel. Steve Vai is probably my next favorite player after that.
Dude, Nuno has his own feel.
Nuno, Paul Gilbert, George Lynch is one of my all-time favorite players. I love Lynch.
Absolutely.
Reb Beach, another guy that's one of my all-time favorite players. You know what I mean? Satriani, obviously, and then you get into guys like Mark Diglio, Ronnie Laticro, Chris Oliva.
Ooh, Ronnie Laticro is so good, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, Trevor Rabin, Steve Lukather, those are all guys I'm a huge fan of those players.
Huge.
You know what I mean? Obviously John Sykes, Nuno Betancourt, as you mentioned.
Dude,
you know.
Adrian Vandenberg, man.
And newer guys like Chris Broderick and Jeff Loomis, I think, are fucking awesome.
Right.
I love those guys.
Oh, dude, Nigel Tufnell.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, these guys
and David St. Hubbins.
But all those guys, the common thread is they have like a wicked personal. Oh, J.K. Lee, of course.
Right.
They have this amazing Warren DeMartini too. They have this like unique sort of personal vibe to how they play, but they're loaded with chops, so they could do anything. But they play what their voice tells them to play, and then they'll have within that there's a huge spectrum that they're able to produce that goes from very simple to very complex, and that's just what I find most interesting.
Yep.
Is that kind of thing. So if I had to, you know, with the two exceptions being Mike Campbell and Billy Gibbons, there's only two guys who aren't like loaded with chops who I could listen to all day, because I think those guys are just incredibly inventive. Like how you play for another 24 bars,
dude,
without ever going beyond like an eighth note.
Dude, you know what? like tons of feel loaded with chops. Gary Moore.
Totally. Yep. Gary Moore is a monster guitar player.
Totally.
And it's so much more chops heavy than he even lets on. Like he is a freaking monster.
Total monster.
And
monstrous.
But like you would never know it if you listen to like Still Got the Blues. You would never know there's this like chops monster hiding inside.
Like everything that everyone loves about Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Stevie was great.
Yeah, totally.
Right? But like you can get
again total unique voice.
Total unique
vibe,
voice.
you know?
Yep. Dude, you can get all of that and more.
That's actually a great Steel Panther song.
See what I did there? More, all of that and more.
All that and Gary Moore.
With Gary Moore. You can get all of that and Gary Moore.
I like his rock stuff though, man. Like Corridors of Power and stuff. I mean, that's like so good, you know.
Dude, what's not
You know
to
who's
like?
another guy that I really love that I feel bad I didn't mention this? That was Ty Tabor from King's X.
Yeah, Ty
Talk about a guy that's got it all.
So
man.
underrated, man.
Chops for days, but so tasteful, and he's got a little bit of that. Mike, he's to me is like almost like a great blend of like Eddie Van Halen and Mike Campbell. If you could like splice those two together, you'd have Ty Tabor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That to me, and that's because he's got chops, but he also has got this taste. It's just unbelievable. He's so great. King's X is so great, guys.
King's X
if you
so
don't know
great.
King's X, please stop whatever you're doing now, and after you go to the Exages website and listen to all of our songs, then go and check out YouTube and put in King's X and just put on Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. And listen to that whole freaking record because it's unbelievable. And Out of the Silent Planet's also awesome. Dogman's awesome. There's so many. I'm sorry, I'm just ranting about King's X, but so good.
I was just going to add that's www.exaegisband.com.
Yep, I'm sure you guys were already in the process of doing that right now, but check out King's X when you're done with that because it's going to be well worth your time. You know what I mean? All right, and then the last thing I'll mention here today is I think we've kind of pulled that thing and looked at it from every angle. New bands. We're going to start doing some new bands here pretty soon, and one band I just discovered everyone needs to know about, The Defiance. It's basically Danger with a different singer. Everyone go check it out. It's killer stuff. Brian, last thoughts?
Oh, well, and I would be remiss if I didn't. So with the podcast reaching some ears, and a good buddy of mine from high school just recently reached out. So I'd like to give a shout out to John Jensen.
All right.
We had lunch yesterday. John is my friend who, the day Kurt Cobain died.
Oh, is this the guy in the hallway?
Yeah, dude. It was me and John that blasted Yngwie's trilogy album through the hallways.
Dancing on Cobain's grave. That must have felt
it was
so good.
so great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So, John, I'm glad we're back in touch. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And, yeah, man. So just good things happening all the way around.
Yeah, guys, the X Ages album is done. Some of the music you can hear right now. So just go to the website. Again, it's xagesband.com. Please follow us on social media at facebook.com/xagesband, twitter.com/ it's hard to say, xagesband, instagram.com/ you guessed it, xagesband. Please subscribe and follow, and make sure to subscribe to this podcast as well while you're at it. And thanks for listening, Ryan. Last thoughts?
Yeah, I think that covers everything. Well, my last thought is that's www.exaegisband.com.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, guys, for listening.
All right, peace.